You're listening to At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production.
And welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host, Keith Malinak. One of the many shows at Blaze TV is the very popular Chad Prather Show. And one of the personalities who make it work is the ubiquitous Party Foul Steve. Steve Powell sat down with me to talk about his favorite music, his connection to dog racing that led to his perfect nickname, and he and I discussed a rite of passage for any child growing up in the South, our early encounters with fire ants. Party Foul Steve Powell is my guest on this edition of At the Mic. I appreciate you making time for me, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope I'm the absolutely best guest you've had so far, and we haven't even started. We don't know yet. We won't know till after, and then we'll all know.
No, I think here in the first 10 seconds, we've already determined you are.
Oh, so, well, yeah, nice. See, 10 seconds in, and I'm already the best.
That's pretty awesome. That's a great start there. So no pressure the rest of the way. So you at the Blaze family, at Blaze TV, I mean, what is your exact title? I don't want to say sidekick. I don't want to say producer. What would I call you in relation to what you do with Chad Prather?
I like to call myself the co-host, even though that's that's a non-official title, because it's always crazy because people, you work at the Blaze and this and that. I said, no, I get to go to the Blaze and I get to be on Chad's show because I work for Chad.
And so you're allowed to call yourself the co-host? Because I'm not allowed. Pat Gray will not allow me.
I just tell everybody I am. What are they going to say? No, you're not. Okay, then I'm not. Then I'm gonna just go with it.
Put that on a business card.
I put it everywhere. It's on social media. Co-host of Chad Prather Show. I'm the co-host of Beer for Brunch, another podcast.
Yeah.
I'm also do several other things, and I always call myself the co-host because I'm always with some other guy with talent. So I'm like the non-talent. Everybody says, well, what talent do you have? I have zero talent except for I hang out with talented people.
See, that's all you need to do. Just be in the right place at the right time. It's a good way to look at it, Steve. Okay, so where were you born? Where were you hatched?
I was hatched in Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. I've spent some time there.
Yeah, I did too, about 4 years. I moved out of there when I was 4 years old.
Oh, smart man. I mean, I'm sure it's lovely.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything?
I don't remember anything.
No?
I don't remember anything while I was there.
Okay, well, I mean, no offense, Houston, but good for you, Steve.
Yeah, we moved about 80 miles north of Houston, up in Polk County, and I grew up there.
Okay, so you don't remember anything in Houston.
No.
What is your earliest memory then?
My earliest memory is it's kind of traumatic. We moved up near my grandparents in East Texas, and my grandmother, I would stay with her, and my grandfather, he was a Baptist preacher, and my mom and dad would go to work, and I would stay with them, and I was 4 years old. I was 4 years old playing in a rock pile, and my grandfather was a kind of carpenter. He was a preacher, but he also did carpentry and stuff like that. And he was over there on the saw, and he's cutting all kinds of stuff up and things. I'm playing in the ant bed, and in a rock pile in the middle of an ant bed.
Oh no!
And I remember having to strip all my clothes off, and I'm just covered with ants,
fire ants.
And originally you think this is going to be some tragic story about my grandfather.
Right.
No,
why'd you set it up like that?
I did, but then I kind of blew it. But that's honestly, the kind of. But I was covered in ants, and I had to strip off all my clothes, and that's my first memory.
Wow.
But it was tragic. I mean, you're a little 4-year-old kid covered with ants.
But you're totally right. I thought you were going to say something along the lines of, and I remember my grandfather screaming and looking over, and he was short one hand. But no, I mean, that would have...
Well, he was screaming. Everybody was screaming. My grandmother comes out the door and stripping clothes off.
Sure, I mean,
and water hose.
Right.
The whole
For
works.
kids in the South, our memories as kids are dealing with fire ants.
Yeah.
And stripping down and trying to get them all off of your body and stuff. Oh, my goodness. Absolutely right. One thing that I learned recently, and it really does work, is keep limes in your fridge, right?
Yeah.
And you apply that to where the ants bit you, and it really relieves some of that pain.
Well, that, and I've also heard Windex. Because the ammonia in it, you just spray all the ant bites. And I don't think kids these days have to worry about that too much. They don't play outside.
Okay. I don't know, man. I am constantly battling them. It becomes a mess in my yard. The struggle is real. The struggle with fire ants is real, especially, down here in the South where they are everywhere. Okay. You grew up a place called Corrigan, Texas.
Yep.
Okay. And that's in Polk County, you said?
Polk County.
Okay. What are some other childhood memories that come to mind from that era? Were you there your entire childhood then?
Yeah, from there on up. My dad was a police officer in my hometown.
Okay.
And so I grew up, and my mom was a high school English teacher. And so I grew up in that small town, and everybody knew who I was and knew who my parents were. And
oh, no, is that good or bad?
It's both good and it's bad.
Uh-oh.
It's there's nothing that ever happened that, you know as teenagers and stuff, the crazy stuff we did as teenagers.
Yeah.
My parents always knew it before I ever got home.
See, now that's not cool.
It was like someone would call, and back then, I can even remember on into when my dad was chief of police, everyone in town had his home phone number.
Oh no.
They didn't call the police department, they called him.
Oh no.
And so
then they would set the narrative before you could get home with
before
the
I could,
truth.
Yeah.
The truth, in quotes. Yeah, I'm looking up Corrigan, Texas here. Population...
1,500?
Yeah, 1,595. There you go.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Hadn't changed much at all.
That's awesome.
Except I'm not there, and I hadn't been back in a very long time.
Is that good or bad?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I stopped by there about 9 or 10 months ago. We went through on a tour bus, and when we were out on tour with Chad, and we pulled in, and I used to work at the grocery store, the Brookshire Brothers, right there on the main intersection. And we pulled in there with the tour bus, and I got out and took a picture next to the tour bus with the store in the background.
Nice.
And just kind of just to have that, kind of paid homage to my very first job.
Is anybody in the store that you recognized?
No, I didn't even go in the store.
You're like, I just got out for the photo op.
Yeah.
And you have siblings, yes?
I do. I have an older sister. She lives down in Yoakum, Texas.
Oh, my goodness.
You know where Yoakum's at?
My family, the Malinacks, we're from Shiner area.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me stop for a second.
Shiner is a favorite town in Texas of mine because of the Shiner Brewery.
Absolutely. And the reason I took pause when you said Yoakum, that's where my great-grandmother ended up living in retirement. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. What a small world. I mean, that's a small town too.
Yeah, it is. And well, my mom lives with my sister there now. My brother-in-law is in the oil field, so years and years of that eventually took them down to Yoakum. Right. And my mom's like, I think I'm just going to move down there with your sister. And I did backflips and said, all right. And so it works out.
All right. And now you did go to Palo Alto Community College.
Now, this was later on, kind of later in life. I went back to school at 30.
Oh, wow.
And, maybe 29, I guess. I'm aging myself quick.
I'll believe whatever you say. And I have no way to verify this.
Yeah,
Steve.
Yeah, you can. I got a plaque on the wall. And so anyway, I went back to school to become a surgical technologist.
Yeah.
Worked in the operating room for...
Oh, my goodness.
So, I mean, I went to Palo Alto. I did all the prereqs for nursing school. I was going to go into nursing school.
And you were going to be, the guy that... The last person we see before we pass out for surgery?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I'm the guy passing the instruments to the doctor and stuff like that. But, yeah, I was going to go to nursing school and be a nurse. And I came home after I did all the prereqs, accepted into nursing school, and told my wife, I said, I don't want to be a nurse.
Oh, no.
And she's like, what are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea. And so the next step was easy to jump right into surgical. I didn't want the responsibility. I shouldn't be left with that kind of responsibility that the nurses do, and I know that. I can accept the fact that I probably should not be that responsible. Okay,
but all of the money that you sunk into that education,
well, thankful,
to help you with others?
I say I was, of course, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and they, in state of Texas, we have what they call the Hazelwood Act.
Okay.
Which it basically, you don't have to, it doesn't reimburse the college for the tuition. It's just you pay no tuition.
Okay. All right.
And so to a public school. So fortunately I went to school. I did all that, but I still used all those classes because a lot of the classes are the same. I just took a different direction.
You could save somebody's life.
Yeah. So, still, and I didn't really realize the responsibility in a surgical technologist is still pretty high.
Yeah.
But there's always somebody above you at the operating table.
Okay. All right.
There's a doctor there. He's the man in charge.
Well, I know enough Marines to know that you never refer to someone such as yourself as a former Marine.
Yeah.
All right. You're
former's okay. Or
former's okay?
Former's okay. You can say, you never say ex-Marine.
Ex-Marine. Maybe that's what it is.
So,
okay. All right. So, well, I guess, is this where I say hoorah?
Hoorah. You got that. You've had to practice with Marines.
That's right. Okay. So you were in the Marines. Tell us about your time in that branch.
I went in 1990 after the judge and district attorney of Tyler County decided that would be my best option in life over going to jail for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, which I took a joyride on a tractor. And I think it was all a plot and a plan from my dad and from everybody that kind of, anyway.
You were set up.
Yeah, I think I was set up to go right into the Marine Corps. It worked out perfect for me. So
whose tractor was it?
I don't even remember.
Oh, no.
So it was one of those roadside crews that cuts grass on the side of the road.
Was alcohol involved?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. How long of a drive did you get on the tractor?
We only went like a mile. I was taking it back. There were several of us involved.
Taking it back?
We were taking it back and the wheel fell off. I don't know how that happened.
What bad timing for you.
It was. We were almost back to where we got it from, and wheel falls off. So we had to leave it right there.
Yeah, okay. So you go into the Marines.
Went in the Marine Corps in 1990.
Okay.
And
did you have to go to Parris Island? Or
I went to San Diego, boot camp in San Diego.
Okay.
I get through a boot camp. I go into MCT, Marine Combat Training, out there on Pendleton.
Yeah.
I get through there, and I go to North Carolina. And about that time, it's early 1991, and when Desert Storm kicks off, right as I'm finishing up my school for motor transport mechanic. And so I finish up that and then go straight over to Desert Storm.
Wow.
And but by the time I got there, it was kind of desert. I make a big joke. It was desert cleanup.
It was a quick war.
It was quick. It was over before I got there. I got over there and hung out in the desert for 6 months.
6 months. Okay. And so eventually you get out?
Eventually, after a couple other deployments here and there around the world.
Okay.
While in the Marine Corps, I did about 26 countries.
Oh, my goodness.
Just because of the units that I was with.
How many years were you in?
4 years. In a very short time, because each unit I would go to, we would get deployed on ship. Well, when you're on ship, you hit ports every 10 days or so, and you're at a different country.
Wow. What's the best country? Which country did you enjoy the most?
United States of America.
Okay.
Followed by Australia.
Okay.
I really like that. I enjoyed Indonesia. We went to Surabaya, Indonesia. That was it is one of the poor countries. It's every country I went to is kind of dirty. I always just felt like it was just dirty. It made me appreciate the United States.
I bet it did. What's the weirdest country you've ever been to?
Weirdest country? Well, I've been to Hong Kong. So, and I found that of course, that was while it was still under British control, and it was weird, but it was we had a blast there. I think I spent 12 days there. Do
you feel their struggle? I mean, were you there long enough to really understand?
No, because during that time...
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was during
that time, there was no communist government trying to come in and change their ways.
Yep.
So.
Okay. So when you were a kid, did you ever think, this is the kind of job I want to have, where I'm just talking for a living, appearing on camera? Is that ever anything that crossed your mind when you were young? No, absolutely not. At 16, I started working at a grocery store. And worked through high school at the grocery store, all the way through high school until, I went in the Marine Corps. And so I always thought that I was just going to be a grocery store manager in my hometown or something. You know what I mean? I was going to be 70 years old stocking milk, and glad I'm not there. Right. So how did you end up with Chad in doing what you do today?
I would say about 12 or 13 years ago, I had a buddy of mine that was a musician, and he said, "Hey, you want to come out on the road with me?" And so I went out on the road with him. He's like, "Yeah, man, you can sell some T-shirts and stuff like that." And the next thing I knew, it grew into being a tour manager for a couple of different Texas country bands over the years, and kind of led to that. And I've known Chad for probably 10 years now. So there came a point where he said, "Dude, one of these days you're going to come work for me." And I'm like, "Yeah, doing what?" Because at that time, he was like not doing what he's doing now. He said, "Don't worry about it." And then fast forward several years, and when he first had that first truck video that went viral, I was kind of in, I I was kind of in limbo. I was traveling with my wife, who's a nurse. She was taking a travel contract up to Billings, Montana.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm up there, and he's like, dude, he calls me. He says, dude, what are you doing? And I said, I'm off the road. I'm traveling with my wife. He said, dude, I'm serious. You're coming to work for me. And I'm like, well, when it's a full-time job, call me. Mm-hmm. And, and fast forward just a few months later, and he's like, I need you now.
Wow.
Come be my tour manager on the road, take care of all my needs and all that kind of stuff.
He remembered.
Yeah.
Tell us about your podcast, Beer for Brunch.
All right, Beer for Brunch. I would say about September, October this past year of 2019, Matlock, that used to be on the Blaze, he has Lock and Loaded is one of his podcasts.
Yeah.
He asked me, he says, hey, I really need somebody to come in, and I used to do this show called Beer for Breakfast. I want to revamp it. I want to take Fridays off from all politics and just come in and do something that's fun.
Cool.
And so I'm like, okay, I ain't got nothing else going. I mean, other than, doing the stuff with Chad. And as long as I just have to show up, I can do it. Because I'm not a production guy. I'm not a microphone guy. I'm not a TV guy. I can plug in a cable if you tell me where to put it. And he says, you don't have to do anything. I just need you to show up, drink beer, and just talk about life.
Wow.
And I'm like, I can do both of those.
And he called you?
Yeah, he called me.
I want that call.
And so he's like, dude, we can really build this. You have a great social media following. I have my followers. We're going to kind of combine all those, and we're going to put them on this one show. Well, we were doing it on his podcast. That was just his Friday show. Within about 3 months, we're like, man, we got to put this on its own. It needs to be a standalone deal. So we do that. We put it's everywhere podcast. It's called Beer for Brunch. Everywhere podcasts are available. Then in December, we had got so many requests of people would send messages. They would send emails or say, we want to see what y'all are doing. And we're just drinking beer. We're going to craft breweries. Sometimes we set up in the garage, smoke a cigar, and drink beer and talk about that beer, whatever that craft beer is, and talk about life. And so everybody wanted to see what we were doing, so we had to put it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So the natural place to put it was Party Foul Nation YouTube channel, which is my YouTube channel.
Yeah, we need to get to that, how you got that nickname.
Yeah, we can get to that. But so Party Foul Nation, it was just a perfect fit to put there because I already had a merchandise line on partyfoulnation.com. The Party Foul character has been around way before the Chad Prather.
I was going to say,
thing.
I probably shouldn't have introduced you when we started as Steve Powell. People were like, who is he talking to?
Yeah.
Yeah, Party Foul Steve.
Yes, that's what I'm kind of known on Chad's show, on the Beer for Brunch, on everything else that we do. And we just we added another show on Party Foul Nation called Paladin Lifestyles, which is Paladin is a cigar lounge here in Fort Worth, and so now we have a show that is from the cigar experts, I guess, and aficionados, and they get on there and talk about cigars for 15, 20 minutes. You think, oh, man, what can you talk about a cigar? Man, these guys know the ins and outs of everything, how a cigar is made and why they choose this and that. And I'm educational. I get to be in the directing mode on that one because I'm not on that. We're going to turn these two guys loose on their own. We're just going to go in there. We'll set it up and then let them talk about cigars for however long they want.
Is all of the information on how to find you and all the stuff that you're involved with, is that partyfoulnation.com?
No, if you go into Facebook.
Go to Facebook.
And Party Foul Steve.
Party Foul Steve.
Punch that in, and both of my deals will come up. My personal page. And my personal page is it's pretty full as far as like friends and stuff, but you can always hit follow on that one because I'm wide open.
Okay.
At this point, my whole life is an open book from beginning to current. It's you can go in there and look at whatever you want. And so there is a Party Foul Nation Facebook and stuff like that. But if you go to Party Foul Steve, you can kind of get everywhere that I go. And I'm on Instagram too, as Party Foul Steve.
Okay. Are you on Twitter at all?
I'm on Twitter as Party Foul Steve. That's easy.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
I do. I just keep that I'm trying to keep that name everywhere. and including my Venmos, Party Foul Steve.
See, I'm going with the ever catchy Keith Malinak.
Yeah.
To describe me. But Party Foul Steve, look for him all over social media. So you managed to stay quite busy during the week, yeah?
Yeah, I do. We're doing that show. We're also doing another show on there called Whining Women.
Wow.
Which is, we're producing one that is it's our wives, and I'm the host of that one. We're putting our wives on camera, and they're both just it's going to come together fine, but it's on unsteady legs right now. They're just nervous as a house cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
And your wife's name is
Tony.
You've been married almost 20 years now.
Almost 20 years.
Wow, good for you. So
I'm a lucky guy.
yeah. And you guys have kids?
Yeah, we do. We have 4 kids total. I had 3 from a first very short marriage, and she came in and raised those kids as her own, and
cool.
Then we have one between us that is almost 17 years old.
Yeah, because your other 3 kids are in their early 20s.
Yeah, they have a son in the Army, preparing to go to law school right now.
Oh, wow.
And he just finished his bachelor's in criminal justice. Our oldest daughter is in the Army. Her husband's in the Army. They're in Kansas. The middle upper daughter, middle daughter. Her husband's in the Navy. They're in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
Tinker Air Force Base.
So wait a minute. What's the Navy doing in a landlocked state?
Because they wire aircraft, and that's like one of the only places they do it, I guess.
That's cool.
Yeah, I always it's like, well, at least you're not on a ship somewhere deploying around the world.
Sure. Yeah. All right, and you're a grandfather, too. I
am a grandfather. 3 grandchildren. I figure my oldest has 1, and he's 2.5, and then next daughter has a 2.5-year-old, and then a little over a 1-year-old.
Mm-hmm. How old are you, man?
I'll be 50 in September.
Wow, you do not look it.
Well, thank you.
I mean, I'm not hitting on you. I'm just saying.
It's a beautiful, luxurious hair.
Wait, was that a dig?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Could it be? I took my cap off. Did you?
No, sir. That's awesome. Okay.
Now that being said, if I do not color my hair, but I color my beard, and it's because I'm vain, and
your hair is darker than your beard.
I know, but I only colored enough just because I don't want all the white showing. So
sure, yeah. You know what, that reminds me. This is the part of the show where I take your picture.
Do you want a hat off or hat on?
Well, it's your decision. I mean, do you normally pay tribute to the old Houston Oilers?
Yeah, it's a Houston Oilers cap. I wore a Houston Astros hat for years, but after
hold on, I don't know why
I had to pose for a picture.
Yeah,
but after the whole Astros debacle,
I
got tired of having to
have that conversation.
Yeah, have that conversation. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to swap over to a Houston Oilers hat. Which
we've had that conversation, you and I know you're not happy with your team.
No, I'm not happy at all.
Smile again. Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. So I switched over to the Oilers hat, and so people just have to get used to it. And people used to say, well, why do you always wear that hat? Because I am that guy that I like being recognized at the airports. We travel 250,000 miles a year in the air.
Wow.
And so it's fun to go through an airport and they go, oh my gosh, Party Foul Steve, and take a picture and sign an autograph and stuff like that.
That's really cool.
It happens, and then there'll be that one person that knows who you are, and then there'll be 300 or 400 over there. What is that all about? It's like, I don't care about the other 300 or 400, just that one.
That's really cool. Awesome. So you get up really early. You came in early for this conversation today, and I appreciate that. And you told me, I get up early anyway. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I mean, I do too, but not by choice necessarily. Well, so why do you get up so early?
Because I think it's because my wife has to get up so early for her work. Yeah. So it's just kind of by default. Because I could get up early, but if I could go right back to bed at like 8 or 9 and sleep my best hours from 9 a.m. to about noon. I've just been on those musician hours for about 12 years now.
Yeah.
So our sleep is usually, you go to sleep at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, you sleep 4 or 5 hours, and then you would get up and drive to your next venue or something like that.
Okay.
And so it's just weird sleeping pattern. If I need to go take a nap, I can go take a nap right now.
Oh, wow.
And it wouldn't even bother me.
That's my curse, man. I cannot sleep during the day.
Yeah.
It's got to be bad news if I'm able to fall asleep during the day. So, as busy as you stay with all of your projects and all of your podcasts and what you do and traveling, when you do, in theory, get some free time, what do you like to do?
I love to fish. So if I have a free afternoon or something, I don't get to go to the places I want to go fishing, but I can fish close to home. We have a couple of area ponds that I can go and wet a hook.
And I asked you, I sent everyone the email with questions, what do you like to do for fun? One of the things you mentioned in response to that was doing the Beer for Brunch podcast.
Yeah, because that's really a hobby.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. How great is that you're doing a job that you look at as a hobby? Yeah,
because for Beer for Brunch at this point, it's not making any money other than... I haven't bought a beer in I don't even know how long. So many people. I haven't had to. We'll go to the breweries and stuff, and we try to pay for our beers, and they're like, no, thank y'all for having us on, and the beer's on us. As a matter of fact, here's you something to take home. And then with all the other travels, people want to hand us beer and say, hey, take this back with y'all. Do an episode of Beer for Brunch. So we get plenty of beer to try and experience, and
that is awesome, man.
I've always been that guy that drank Coors Light or Bud Light, so this has all been new to me to drink, IPAs and these lagers and these milk stouts, which I'm still not a big fan of.
But it's free. Let's not forget.
But it's free, yeah. And so now, and we added adding the cigar show. It's the same thing. Now, once a week, I can go sit at the cigar shop and get to do their podcast. And like I say, I'm not on it, but I kind of help get to direct it while I'm smoking a cigar.
Really great. So do you do a lot of camping as well?
No, not as much as I want to. My camping gear is in a couple of big boxes up in the attic. We just haven't had time. Right. I wish. And you when the kids were younger, we all went camping because we go to my favorite place to camp is Inks Lake, and that's down outside of Fredericksburg.
Okay.
In that area, any place in that hill country, some beautiful state parks and stuff like that you can go camping at. And the kids kind of grew up going camping and fishing, and
just been a while.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, it's been a while. Once the kids start getting older and out of the house, you kind of go, we'll take some mom and dad time. So it's been kind of good because we've been able to go on vacations that we couldn't necessarily do when we had all the kids in the house. And they're all jealous. And
I hear so many people bring up the hill country down around Austin. And I know it's beautiful. I've seen pictures. I've got to get down there. Is there anything you would recommend if someone had a weekend to spend in the Texas hill country? I would
start off in New Braunfels.
Okay, yeah.
And there's lots of stuff to do there. You can see some of the oldest dance halls in Texas that have been around for forever. You start there at Green Hall. And if you were a motorcycle enthusiast, there's some great, and I no longer have I went through my midlife crisis and bought a motorcycle. I had a Harley for several years.
Okay.
And but I would drive all those, I say trails, but you're on the highway, but Devil's Backbone. There's several, rides that you can go on that are just gorgeous.
Good hiking trails down there, too?
Yeah, you can go to, there's several, like I say, even on Inks Lake there is, but there's Pedernales. That's great hiking trails. There's, just miles and miles. We take the kids, go down there and do, even with the kids, 6 or 7 miles on a Saturday afternoon. They loved it. They didn't know they walked 6 or 7 miles. If you'd have told them that before, they would,
No, I don't want to. Exactly. So you've got, dogs as pets?
Yes, I do. I have a Rhodesian Ridgeback. He's 2 years old and weighs about 80-plus pounds. He's a monster.
And what's his name?
Rhodey.
Rhodey?
Yeah, because he's a Rhodesian Ridgeback.
I got it, yeah.
His name is Tough Rhodey Hobbs.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
And that was because there's 3 of us in the house and we couldn't decide on a name. So we got all three of the names that we had.
That poor confused dog. Does he answer all three?
We just call him Rhodey.
Okay.
So
so if he heard the word Hobbs, he'd be like, what?
Yeah, he totally wouldn't. And Hobbs comes from Rock Johnson, The Rock, in one of those movies.
Yeah.
And now
I was hoping you were going to say Calvin and Hobbes, but oh well.
No, not quite. But so Tough came from Tough Hedeman, who was bull rider.
Okay.
And of course, Rhodey is kind of just short for Rhodesian.
And you've got Cash.
Yeah, we have Cash. He's our oldest. He is the half Dachshund, half Corgi, or we really don't know. Okay,
he's just Cash.
He's just Cash,
okay.
And he's our 7-year-old. He's the old man, and he's our boy.
And it's no surprise that you love classic country, Texas country. That's what you wrote as far as your favorite music. But here's my question for you. What is the difference between, how can you tell the difference between classic country and Texas country?
Okay, think country music that you hear on mainstream radio and stuff like that. It's a very well polished. Everything is perfect.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it is, and everything is to that certain beat that is just catchy, just,
A lot of studio magic.
Mm-hmm. Now, I like the more stripped down, raw, what I call raw. That's not to say they didn't go in a studio and do some things, but it's not auto-tuned per se. I'm not saying they don't use any of that on that. They try to keep it as real and raw and simple as can be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you might go, oh, that's not very good. It comes down to music appreciation and what that artist is doing. When you realize what they do in a studio to make the perfect sound, you start going, well, that's magic. It is magic. It is Houdini kind of stuff that they pull off.
Yeah, let's hear how that sounds when you're on stage later.
Exactly. I want to be able to walk, go into go to a concert and go, oh, yeah, this is what I hear on the album. You can't do that most of the time.
Okay.
Most of the time you go to a concert and you listen to the radio, you're getting two different versions, and you're like, who is this guy on stage singing?
Yep, that makes sense.
In that Texas music scene, what you see on stage and what you hear on stage is what you get on that album.
Right.
So it's not like a surprise.
So who's your favorite artist, would you say?
Favorite artist in the Texas? Probably, if you go for lyrically,
whatever
would be,
you like,
I would go with Jason Boland.
Okay.
But I am a huge Kevin Fowler fan. Did work for him on his ranch for 7 years during the whole touring with bands and stuff. He had to have a weekday job, so I worked on his ranch doing ranch work.
And it seems like country music singers are the most genuine of the music realm, as far as the same kind of person that you expect them to be, as opposed to others that might be really disappointing.
Yeah, I think for the most part, the ones that I worked with and dealt with, if they weren't genuine off the stage and I'm like, nah.
See you later. Okay. Let's see here. Last song you had on repeat, and you can make this up. If
no, it's not. I don't have to make nothing up because it's just recently our buddy Aaron Copeland.
Yeah.
He's a Texas country artist, young guy.
Okay.
And he wrote a song that is that we use. It's called "Drunk as Hell." We use it for the Beer for Brunch music intro and outro to the show. And so,
did he write these lyrics while he was drunk as hell? Or?
Yes, I'm probably saying he has a lot of drinking songs, and it's kind of funny because if you write a song that's all about alcohol and about beer drinking and stuff, it's hard to get played on the radio. It's kind of they have certain criteria. If it doesn't meet, well, the song still went number 10 on the Texas music, in that Texas music scene and stuff in the charts.
Oh, wow.
So to be able to have a song that didn't meet criteria, that the radio didn't want to play, it still did pretty good. And we said, hey, man, that's the song we need to use for Beer for Brunch. And he says, y'all can use it.
Nice.
So
that's really cool, man. That's awesome. So I asked any interesting talents you have.
My only talent is, like I said in the beginning, is making sure that I'm around talented people. I really think I just end up in the same room with the right people. It's crazy because 1 minute, I'm doing one thing, and the next minute I'm up in New York City on Fox, with the Fox and Friends, sitting on the couch, on the curvy couch, and rubbing elbows, and then the next week in a room at John Rich's house from Big and Rich, sitting up at their bar with Big Kenny and John Rich, sipping whiskey.
That's
and
cool.
It's like, and then be down the street at another place with some of the best songwriters in Nashville that write all the songs, being involved in that kind of stuff. And then, next week out in L.A., with Chad pitching for a sitcom, sitting in a room full of, executive, that do all the, and writers that write these sitcoms and stuff. And I'm like, how did I get in this room? Is this a bit, am I being pranked in life to be able to,
I think we've all had moments like that.
You're just around all these people. I mean, I get that. And there's, look where we work. Look at that.
Right.
The influential people that we get to, walk down the hallway and say, hey, what's up, Glenn?
Yeah.
Or whoever. And and the people that come in here that are guests on all, the shows throughout the play, it's just like, this would never happen in real life, but it does.
Right.
And it can. And
okay, so you say that, and you talk about all of the connections that you have and all of the important people that depend on you. Yet I'm curious about the answer that you gave to the next question, which was, what is something people don't know about you? And do you remember your answer?
I don't even remember what that answer was.
Okay,
what did I say?
It seems directly opposed to what you just said. So I want to flesh this out if you would like to, but the response to what is something people don't know about you is, I lack confidence in myself, yet will absolutely put myself out there.
Okay, I absolutely do lack confidence in myself every time I sit behind a microphone.
Despite all of the great connections you have and all of the people that depend on you, and the fact that you can change your career on a dime, like the nursing school stuff.
Yeah.
And yet you have managed 180 degrees from that profession, been able to be successful,
but still have an extreme lack of confidence sitting behind a microphone or sitting in front of a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this: when I was growing up, when I was born deaf. Okay. So when I was 2 years old, my mom finally found a doctor that would believe that I could not hear. Well, it turned out I was born with adult size adenoids, which closed off. To get technical, anyway, I couldn't hear.
Okay.
So I wasn't talking, that kind of thing. So fast forward, did surgery, corrective surgery at 2.5 years old.
How did she figure out that?
Because she just knew, because I was not talking. She said I would communicate to movement and stuff. Like the doctor, she'd take me to the doctor, and the doctor would clap, and I would respond. And, she would tell him, no, he's responding to your movement, not the sound.
Okay.
So finally, a doctor that believed her, and Dr. Maddox in Houston. Of course, he's passed away now, but that was in 1972. He was reconstructing eardrums and stuff in the 70s and doing that kind of stuff. So he was very well known in that, I guess, in an auditory kind of sense of things, and like building and reconstructing eardrums, all kind. Anyway, corrected my surgery. Did corrective surgery for me. I started hearing, but it affected my voice, nasally, whiny kind of thing. So I grew up with, people making fun of the way I talked, and it made me real self-conscious about, how I talk. And fast forward, up to I would say about 2 years ago, I had one of those same guys that I grew up with that would make fun of the way I talk. Said he would say, "Dude, I don't miss a single show. I listen to you every day." And I'm like, winner.
That is awesome.
So it kind of that actually helped get me overthinking about it. And then of course I think we are on radio and TV and stuff, but you still go through a phases of you're worried about what are they seeing. What are they? Because we all look in the mirror and we see one thing. Mm-hmm. The world sees something else,
right?
And that's a struggle to go through. Finally, I'm almost to that phase. I just don't really care anymore. Yeah. But it's still back there.
Huh.
That's why I color the beard.
That's why you color the beard. That's awesome. All right. Well, that's why I wear the hat.
Yeah. Cover it up.
Cover it up. Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's definitely something that people wouldn't know about you just watching you, because you seem very comfortable and very confident just when you're just in your element, like with Chad, for example.
Okay. And I tell people say, well, why aren't you doing something on stage when Chad does? I say, well, I can go out there and individually talk to every single person in that auditorium, and I can have a great conversation with each person, no problem.
Yeah.
Put me on a stage in front of a room full of people, and I'd be like, I wouldn't know what to say.
It's almost like most people, I guess, right, would be flipped. I don't know.
I don't know, because my wife has to speak in front of people, okay? And she hates it. She's great at it. She's very, very great at it, but she absolutely hates that. So that's...
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Okay. What's something you want to accomplish in your lifetime?
I just want to live life to the fullest every single day, and I know that's kind of cliche. I mean, you hear. I just don't want to miss any opportunities to live life.
Okay.
I don't have a specific goal out there. Other than I want to just I do like living life. Candles burning at both ends.
Right.
I have to have that.
Stay busy.
Stay busy. Mm-hmm. I need that. I think that's good mental health for me. Taking a long weekend off. As long as I have something to do during that long weekend off.
Can you ever unplug? Are you able to do that?
No, not really.
Yeah, me either.
It's I'm always on go. Mm-hmm. So even when I'm unplugged, I'm still plugged in.
The brain doesn't stop, correct?
No.
Okay. How many countries did you say you've been to?
I think I'm up to about 31 or 32 now.
Maybe some more. Recount that, because I got you here at 33.
Yeah, maybe it is 33. It's hard to keep. Some of them I don't know. Like, it's because we did so much traveling, and I had to go through, and I have little memorabilia from most of the countries, but there's a lot I don't.
Do you count it if you just land at an airport and connect
No,
the flight?
I haven't. I haven't had any of those experiences where I've just landed and didn't get off an airplane. Or a lot of mine were, like I said, on a ship in the Marine Corps. And then, of course, going on cruises, because I'm turned into one of those guys that I like going on cruises with the wife and daughter. And so we've gotten to go on a couple of really cool ones. And most recent out-of-the-country trip I went on, outside of Canada, because we do live shows in Canada, me and the wife took a trip to Ireland.
Oh, cool.
So we got to go over and spend a week in Ireland with a bunch of Texas country music artists. And there again, I get put in a room full of amazing people.
Right. Those one-on-one connections.
Yeah.
You got. So you talked about collecting a memento from all of these places that you go. My mom used to buy a bell in each state that she visited.
Yeah.
What are some of the trinkets you would pick up?
We're coffee cups.
Coffee cups.
Yeah, my wife is a coffee cup collector.
Oh, okay.
So
are these things on display then, or are they in a box somewhere?
They're in cabinets, in two different cabinets at our house that are just stacked full. Now most of these are different states and stuff.
Okay.
Because we really didn't get into the coffee cup collection stuff until she started traveling with her job, and so we started doing the coffee cup thing.
I know you want to get to Alaska. I think we all do.
Alaska and Hawaii are two states I've never been to.
Okay, so how many states have you been to then?
All of them except Alaska.
So just those
and Hawaii.
two. Just those two. What's your favorite state to visit?
My Montana.
Okay.
Believe it or not, Michigan.
Wow.
Michigan.
I don't believe I've ever heard that one.
Because I lived while she was traveling with her nursing job. We lived up there for 6 months.
What part?
Muskegon, Michigan.
Okay.
So Muskegon, Michigan. We lived on a peninsula between Muskegon Lake and Lake Michigan.
Hold up your hand there.
It's
show me where it is. The pinky. Oh, yeah. Okay. So.
Oh wait, hang on. I have to look at it.
Is it the thumb or the pinky?
The thumb.
It's the thumb.
The other side.
Oh, it's over near Toronto then, right?
Yeah. It's
Right.
Wait, which glove is it? It's the pinky.
Now you've got me looking.
Yeah, I'm looking at the hand wrong. I'm holding mine up, but trying to show you, so it's backwards. So
I wish I could see us holding our hands and turning them back and forth. Okay, so you're over on the west side. Then,
yeah, the west side.
Oh, I see. It's right on Lake Michigan.
So if you go out there, I live right on that little peninsula. So we could throw a rock out our front door and hit Muskegon Lake. And then just walk over to Lake Michigan, where it's a big sandy beach, just like you were going to the ocean.
Okay.
So, and the waves come in just like you're at ocean. It's just fresh water, not salt water.
Oh, nice.
And my son came up to visit us while we were up there, and he's like, Dad, I want to swim in as many Great Lakes as I can in one day. And I'm like, really? So we drove up to the UP, Upper Peninsula. So in one day, he swam in Lake Superior, Lake Huron, right? I think that's it, and of course Lake Michigan. So in one day, he swam in 3 of the Great Lakes.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's a story. Yeah, I see how they all kind of come together up there around Mackinac Island.
Yeah, Mackinac is beautiful.
Yeah, that's where I want to get.
You got to get up there. Go in the summer, not in the winter.
Yeah.
We lived in Berlin, New Hampshire during January, February, and March.
Oh, I bet that was warm.
Yeah, it was negative 22 degrees every day. And I can remember wife got off work at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were like the one restaurant in town that you could go eat at and sit down. We went there to eat, and we walked in. The lady says, how's the weather out there? And my wife says, it's not too bad. It's only -9.
Wow.
And I'm like, wait a minute. It's only -9, and it's not too bad. We need to get out of here.
I was going to say, we've been here too long, dear.
Yes. And,
that is interesting how weather and our perception of it is really relative to where we are, where we're living. Because, I went to school at the University of Nebraska, and I loved the cold. It was totally fine, Then you move down south, and you have these little spurts of cold, but they're so much more brutal because you're not used to them. Whereas
we get 2 days of cold weather here a year.
Okay, what's your biggest regret, would you say?
Did I answer that on that sheet?
Yeah, let's see. You said that you wish you'd started applying some things 5 to 10 years.
I would say
5 to 10 years before you did.
As far as that, kind of in the networking aspect of it, and I'm talking socially networking and stuff, I was probably doing that my entire life, but I never applied any of that to anything that I could do or being able to. I'd probably make a great salesman. If I wasn't doing this, I could probably, I could probably sell cars.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I could or not. I'm not, but I think I would be good at just being able to relate to people.
Yeah.
And because of experiences that I've had, that I've always been able to relate with other people within a matter of minutes. And usually, especially most people in Texas, I'm usually kin to them within about 30 minutes of a conversation with them, or we know someone that they're acquaintances with.
Okay.
So it's we're that whole Kevin Bacon game.
Right.
We're a whole lot closer than that. That they say 7 degrees of separation. Yeah. I say we're more like 3 or 4, and a lot of times a lot less than that.
Wow.
Especially the older we get, and the more that, especially nowadays, that because of social networking and stuff like that, and that's being pushed in. Think about the networking in all arenas of the workforce, and how they have these networking events all the time for businesses and things like that. And of course, college networking. I didn't go to a Texas A&M or a University of Texas where I have that alumni that the people that did or have that alumni for the rest of their life that they use it helps promote their businesses. They help, in every aspect. They stay connected to where they went to the people they went to college, and they do. And you realize, oh, y'all do business with them and them and them, and y'all all went to Texas A&M. I'm just using A&M as an example. And that was, my mom went to college. She was a school teacher. My dad never did. It was never pushed, everything. And I was probably really not college material coming out of high school. Not because I couldn't do the work or something. It's probably just because I wouldn't.
Right.
I was a lazy student.
I mean, you didn't have to be lazy. you weren't lazy in taking that tractor for a joyride.
No,
that took some effort.
Alcohol got in the way, I'm sure. That's probably got in the way of going to school, too.
Okay, well, what's your most embarrassing moment that you've experienced in your life?
I probably have embarrassing moments daily.
That you want to share.
I was going to say, I usually have some kind
daily.
of... I really can't think of anything that really stands out because I often do embarrassing things and kind of hence the name Party Foul. It just kind of
it's my routine. It's my daily life.
It is my daily life, and but everybody's like, well, where did that name come from? Where did that name come from? The truth is, during my college, when I did go back to school in college, I was helping my wife's uncle raise racing greyhounds.
Okay.
Which turned out we did that for 10 or 12 years. Wow. And I named one of my first litter that I raised on my own. There was a friend of mine that had a song called Party Foul, and I named a dog Party Foul. Well, that dog went on to be one of the top dogs in the United States in Wheeling, West Virginia at that track. And made me a lot of money in a short time. I say a lot of money. I mean, I'm not talking made me $1 million. No, I wish. Mm-hmm. But it did make a lot of money in a short amount of time. And so I got known as I would walk into a kennel at a racetrack, and they just relate me to the dog. So Party Foul, okay. So you kind of, before you know it, you're just kind of, you're known by Party Foul. And that was,
it's not some horrible thing that you did at a party once that
oh, I promise you, I did all those horrible things at a party. I've kissed the wrong wife. I've I've spilt my drink. I've done it. So
okay, but you made an interesting point. You said you've made a lot of money in dog racing with that dog Party Foul, and you said it's not enough. It's not $1 million or anything like that. So the wheels got to turn in my head. Anybody that you're familiar with that has made enough to retire in that business of dog racing, or made a ridiculous amount of money to say, I'm a millionaire because I raised dogs because obviously horse racing.
Yeah, there's it's kind of similar. Most of those guys that make a lot of money in the dog racing business back then, and it's one of those sports. It's unfortunate, and I still have friends that are doing it and surviving. But it's one of those things as they come in and shut tracks down and stuff like that for animal, because it's always the animal rights activists that are pushing that. And there's all it takes is one bad egg in the industry. And I'm not saying there's only one bad egg in the industry, but all it takes is one, and it just undoes all the good stuff that the good, responsible dog owners and breeders do.
So was that just a hobby for you then?
It was a hobby that turned into a full-time job.
That's what I was going to ask you.
For 10 years, that I was able to work from home.
Oh, wow.
Raise my kids on that farm and teach them, just work ethic.
Oh, that's cool.
And stuff like that. We had, we raised 120 dogs at a time.
Were any of them as successful as Party Foul?
No. Oh. He was my most successful.
Was that early on in your 10-year run?
Yes, it was very early.
And you just kept trying
he paid for building onto the farm and paid for feed for the other dogs and kept that going for,
Okay.
He ran on up there at that track for almost 2 years.
Wow, okay. Biggest fear? Is that the self-confidence thing?
I think so, because I think that's a struggle that that somebody like that, I think it's biggest fear outside of that.
And let's be honest. Let me just say, so you're not in this boat by yourself. I think all of us, to one degree or another, lack in self-confidence. I think different areas
I believe
of our
so.
lives.
I believe that too, but we're around here around a lot of people that are on the radio, including yourself, that do this every day, and I know each one of them probably have their own lack of self-confidence.
Yeah, and I would just say that in your case, I think what makes it unusual is that you do such a good job and you seem so comfortable, and you're able to at least project this natural state, but yet that's interesting that that is where you feel...
I think, like, Chad's show, for the most part, is really easy because I can really play just dumbass. I can just play the I don't want to project myself necessarily as dumb, but I want to make sure that that whatever processes are going on in my mind about us, because we talk politics, stuff going on in the news, that kind of thing, and I want to make sure that I'm thinking the way that most America does. I don't want to be on the intellectual level of some of the guys that, like Chad, he's a smart guy. Mm-hmm. And he's thinking everything, real critical thinking skills through things. But most people don't think that way.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm able to, whatever I say or a question that I may have is something that they can relate to. And I do get that. I said, thank you for asking that question, or thank you for saying that, because that's where I was, along the lines where I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. And there was a story recently where it was talking about market cap. A company's market cap. Well, I don't know exactly what a market cap. I have a general idea, but not enough to coherently try to explain it. So, you know what I've got in front of me? It's called Google.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use it, and then I'm going to share with the audience. Okay, so in case you were wondering what that is, here you go.
Yeah, and I kind of do that. I sit over there on Chad's show sometimes. People are like, what are you doing on your phone? Half the time I'm Googling something because I don't know.
Because I don't know, all right? And I'm not going to fake it. Okay, who in your life has had the biggest influence on you, would you say?
And my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I give her a lot of credit because she is the one that allows me to, and I say allows me to, if I told her, I said, hey, let's pack up and move to wherever, and I want to raise hamsters. Uh-huh. And she would be like, okay. And I mean, she would support it, even if she was like, and I say support it, I'm talking about from the aspect of you go be you. And if you think that that's what you do that. And now financially support, she'd be like, no, that's not a wise decision. Yeah. But if I tell her, if I tell her I want to do this, or I want to do this podcast, she absolutely 100% do it. You should.
That's cool.
Has never back down. I mean, this is a woman that stepped in and raised 3 kids that were not. She took the whole package deal,
right,
and ran with it and did an amazing job.
That is awesome.
It inspires me daily. I mean, she's a nurse that had to go through all this crap over the last months of dealing with all that, and never sunk her head and said, I wish I didn't have to go to. She loves what she does.
That is great. That is so awesome. Well, if people want to find you, I guess the easiest thing is pick their platform of choice, right? And type in Party Foul Steve.
Party Foul Steve will get you everywhere, and watch the Chad Prather Show on the Blaze.
Let's go over all the places they can see you. Chad Prather on Blaze TV.
Yeah, and on Pluto now.
On Pluto as well. Thank you.
Which is it's kind of weird turning on Pluto TV and then see myself on the big screen, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's where my lack of self-confidence comes in when I see that. I'm like, why was I picking my nose? Yeah. Why am I touching my face so much?
I don't think that's a lack of self-confidence. I think that's just we see ourselves on a big screen and we're just horrified. We're like, oh wait, no.
I think it just feeds into that though. Uh-huh. So you can do that.
You got Beer for Brunch podcast.
Beer for Brunch podcast. That's also available on the Party Foul Nation YouTube channel.
Wow, okay.
So you can see that action go down. Okay. So just punch in Party Foul Nation YouTube. Mm-hmm. It'll pop up, and then go find the Beer for Brunch. We're putting those out once a week.
Okay. You're everywhere, man.
Yeah, Instagram, Party Foul Steve.
There you go.
Twitter, Party Foul Steve. Venmo, Party Foul Steve.
I mean,
that's if everybody puts their Venmo out now. I'm like, well, is there really people out there that want to send Party Foul Steve money? And I'm like, hey, somebody never know.
Somebody sent me, I still don't know to this day, somebody sent me a large screen TV for Christmas.
Wow.
A 65-inch HD 4K Ultra. Seriously, because
my address is 1301.
I mean, it was just a fun thing about how my TV is too small and I can't watch sports. You can complain enough, I guess, on social media, and someone comes through.
I try not to complain too much,
right,
but
right.
Hey,
it pays
big
off.
Screen TVs.
It pays off, Steve. Party Foul Steve. Steve Powell, thank you so much for making time. I really appreciate you joining me here for At the Mic.
Thank you very much for having me.
This has been At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production. Look for At the Mic Show on Twitter to connect.